Chapter 13. The Queen has learned to obey the General, Powell said. He leaned against a bulkhead, staring at the floor.
Obey him?
Wilks said. They'd been in the little ship a long time. Wilks was beginning to feel stiff and cramped, but he wanted to hear as much of it as Powell could get out before they had to break this off. Oh, yes. Spears started training her like a dog. Used his cigar lighter. He'd have a trooper with a flamethrower roast an egg while the Queen watched. After she calmed down, he'd put a human into the testing cage with her. When she went for the bait, he'd pop the cigar lighter on and hold it next to another egg. The Queen picked it up fast. You could leave a man in with her and a dozen drones for hours, and none of them would touch him. She's not stupid, the Queen. It seems odd, though, Powell continued, that the Queen will sacrifice the drones without a second thought, but that she'll obey Spears to protect the eggs. Wilks shrugged.
She's an alien. What drives her doesn't drive us. Maybe her responsibility ends when the damned things hatch.
That's what Spears thinks. But she controls the drones. Telepathically, empathically, we don't have the sophisticated gear here to be sure exactly how. But it isn't with sound, or odors, or any visual signals we can detect. We've run tests where the drone was a click away in an airtight chamber. No possible way it could see or hear the Queen, and Spears made it do what he wanted.
You have more than one Queen,
Wilks said. Powell blinked. How do you know that?
Somebody is laying the eggs in the air processor. Unless you're ferrying the Queen from here back and forth.
No, you're right. We put one egg from this nest over there. Spears did it himself. There are a score of drones there now tending the young Queen. Wilks shook his head in disgust.
Spears doesn't know what the hell he is messing with here.
He thinks he does. And he has done more with them than anybody else, Wilks. Last month he took a dozen of the things out and had them marching in close order drill. He taught several of them how to hold a modified M69 machine gun and had them shooting the weapon.
Jesus.
Yes. It's Maggie's drawers for accuracy. They can't hit anything smaller than a wall, even at close range. But still. Wilks nodded. A monster with a machine gun. The only advantage men had in battle with these things was their weaponry. If they were armed as well as human troops, they'd be unstoppable. The drones are stupid, Powell said, but even a chimp can be trained to shoot fairly straight. And we think the Queen's connection with the drones gives her the ability to see what she sees. And the Queen is probably as smart as we are, according to the psychologists.
Buddha fucking Christ.
Crude, but apt. Wilks stood, paced across the room.
But what's the point? Earth is history. When we left there, it was already nearly overrun. A few more years, and everybody there will be dead. A few clean neutron bombs after that would sterilize the place. All this cowboy shit is stupid.
This isn't about saving the Earth, or anybody on it, the Major said. It's about Spears and his ideas of personal glory, or something. I don't know what, for sure. Wilks nodded.
All right. Let's get to the bottom line here, Major.
Powell sighed. Enough people have died, Sergeant. This has to end. Spears is at the air processor plant. There's a magnetic storm heading this way. Sunspot activity on the primary is up. Spears will be delayed some hours. Maybe even a day or two before he can lift and return to base. We need to begin our preparations now. Wilks nodded.
All right.
Mitch? The door to his room was open. He was half machine now, but the android part of him was programmed for sleep, to enhance his human characteristics. He lay on a pallet on his back, a sheet covering him to the chest. Come in, Billie. The room's lighting was dim, and he was barely visible as she approached the pallet. She stopped 2 meters away. "I'm sorry," she said. "I shouldn't have said what I said." He remained lying down, his hands under his head. He stared straight up at the ceiling. "I can understand that you were upset. It didn't give me the right to behave that way. It's just that—" She stopped. Just that what? She turned slightly, so she was looking at the back wall and not directly at him. "It's all so confusing," she said. "I thought I had gotten past it, about your being an artificial person, that it didn't matter." But it does matter, doesn't it? Her sigh was almost a sob. "When we came out of the sleep chambers on the way here, you seemed so cold, so distant. I didn't understand it. I still don't understand it. What happened, Mitch? Did you change? Or was it me?" Now he sat up, the sheet draping down around his waist, covering the metal skeleton, and revealing his bare upper body. He looked human to her in this light. Was human, she reminded herself, but not quite the same as she was. The made us to be as much like humans as possible. We're as far away from first-generation synthetics as they were from robots. Almost human. Funny, there were rumors we heard when we were still damp from the vats. The next generation of synthetics could not only pass for human among womb folk, they would be born thinking they were human. Memory tapes of childhood, family, full implant blocks of internal workings, anatomically perfect right down to a dye in the circulation fluid, so it would look like human blood to a naked eye. They would not only look like naturals, they would believe they were naturals. There would be inbuilt laws of function, of course, but the new APs would simply think they were personal ethics. They'd have the same energy requirements, ability to process food, oxygen, normal elimination, same natural cycles. For all practical purposes, they would be people, save that they couldn't reproduce, and they would be stronger, faster, and more durable. Mitch. Of course, he went on, ignoring her interruption. The question that immediately arose was, what's the point? If you want real people, why not make them the old-fashioned way? Parent or artificial wombs? And the answer was that they would be expendable, able to do the dirty and dangerous work that real men didn't want to do. Radiation disposal, exploration on hostile worlds, pressure rescue, suicide missions for whatever reasons. The new androids would be perfect, acceptable in polite society, able to move without upsetting the most delicate sensibilities, but throwaways. Instant third-class citizens. No, not even citizens, but property, slaves, loyal as dogs, ready to leap at the proper command. Jesus, Mitch, I'm not finished yet. But to get to those happy models, they had to experiment. Stir in the proper emotions so the passers for human would laugh at the right spots, cry when appropriate, even fall in love when necessary. So, here we are, you and I. It worked. My fake hormones did what they were supposed to do, and I fell for you. Only thing is, there's enough of me outside the emotional part that I can understand it apart from the feelings. Billie turned and looked at him. "And you resent me for it," she said finally. "No, not you. See, I do love you, but I resent them for making me this way. They didn't give me any experience, any guidance, any way of dealing with this whole thing rationally." Billie smiled, small, sad, but a smile nonetheless. His eyes were better than hers. He saw the expression. Something funny about this? She heard the anger in him. In a way. Nobody ever gave me any guidance, or way of dealing with this whole thing either, Mitch. Love and logic don't go together. You're looking for a nice, clean path to walk. It doesn't happen that way very often among us naturals, either. Love is usually messy, cluttered, sometimes painful, and just plain awful. At least you had a choice, he said. What makes you think so? We don't get to choose any more than you do in some things. You could have walked away. You didn't have to love me. I could have walked away from you, but I couldn't walk away from my feelings. That's why I can't just bail out now. I could leave, but what I feel for you would stay with me. This is beyond my capabilities to understand, he said. Welcome to the club. The silence stretched long between them. If only he had told her before they'd begun. If only she had known. She wasn't a bigot. She could have gotten past it. Could have accepted him. Really? Are you sure about that, Billie? Are you? There was the damning part of it. She wasn't sure. Not at all. Spears sat in the ship, waiting for the goddamned storm to pass. Stupid. He'd known the solar magnetic activity was up. There had been swirls forecast. He should have destroyed the traitors and hustled his ass back to base. They could have beaten it, if they had hurried. Well, done was done. No point in crying over a broken plan. Best he make use of the time. There were some combat scenarios he wanted to run. The CompSim unit had the latest learned commands the alien troops had assimilated logged into it. They weren't a crack fighting unit yet, not by any means, but they were getting there. It was just a matter of time. And when they were ready, nothing in the universe could stand against them. Spears's word would carry more weight than God's when he had these troops whipped into shape. Yes, indeed, just a matter of time.